Hello there, everyone. If you're watching this video, then you are part of the TTOR army, an army that is building itself up one subscriber at a time. Now, before we get into the subject matter of today's video today, I'd like to remind you that at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be streaming on my Rumble channel as well as my Quarter channel. And last week, it was the TTOR Show podcast that I was streaming. This coming one will be a podcast of God TV Radio. So it will be specifically an outreach channel to non-believers where believers and non-believers can converse with each other about a wide variety of topics. And if you're going to come to that show and participate, you need to bring a microphone. And also, if you want to be on camera with your actual self, bring a webcam. But if you want to just have an avatar of yourself, that's cool as long as you have a working microphone. So hopefully I will see you on the God TV Radio podcast this Thursday. So now that you know about that, let's get into the actual topic here. Today we're going to be responding to a YouTuber who is bigger than me, but he's also a small YouTuber. And he decided that the best way to try and grow his YouTube channel would be to attack Brett Keane. So on screen, you see here, he put out a video titled, "The Most Pathetic Lie I've Ever Seen, Brett Keane." And as you're going to see today, this guy put out the most pathetic attempt to expose Brett Keane that I have ever seen. Not that there's ever been a good one exposing Brett Keane, but this might be the worst one of them all. Now, what are we looking at here? Well, he put out the video on June 12th, which was a little over 5 months ago. And if you go to his channel, which is GraySheep1717, what you find is that even though he has over 800 subscribers, and even though he has a lot of popular videos, most of those videos he did years ago, with the exception of his 9-month-old The Criticism of the Dead Space Remake is Pathetic, which has over 35,000 views. He struck gold with that one. But most of his videos, at least recent ones in like the last year or two, they're not doing so hot. They get 30 views, 60 views, or maybe 100 or 200 views. And after he put out that Criticism of the Dead Space Remake is Pathetic video, he tried doing a FNAF 3 console video, which has 555 views. Then his Dreamland 2 for Kirby, 113 views, 66 views, 206 views, 111, 249, 64, 116. It's obvious this guy was trying to put out winners that would get him views and subs. And that's why he put out a Brett Keane hit piece, because he's trying to grow his channel. And what better way to get subs and views than to attack Brett Keane in the most mindless, pathetic, drone-like pattern that you possibly can. Now let's watch his actual video to see the great lie that Brett Keane is trying to foist upon us all. Ooh, spooky. All right.
For the few people who are aware of the YouTuber Brett Keane, all he is remembered for is his incredible lack of intelligence and everlasting desire to scam or manipulate people.
So, right off the bat, in the first 11 seconds, we have one of the many lies about Brett Keane that is told by the atheist community. That Brett is a scammer, and the reason why he became a Christian theist YouTuber a few years back is because he saw an opportunity to scam us out of our money. Of course, there's a big problem with that theory. Brett gets almost no donations from Christians. I've donated to Brett before in the past, and there may be one or two other Christians who've donated him a few bucks here and there before. But most of the donations that Brett has ever gotten, when he's ever gotten any, has actually been from atheists and non-believers who still like him. Brett is not making money from Christians. I mean, if he was only converting to theism and Christianity to scam Christians like myself out of our money, well then, why does he continue to be a Christian/theist after all these years, even though He's just in it for the money. He's just in it to scam us, to manipulate us. I mean, if he was really a scammer and manipulator, he would have walked away from this whole theism Christian presentation of himself years ago when he realized he wasn't going to make money. The fact that Brett Keane continues to express his theistic Christian beliefs after all these years, even though he's not making money off of our community, is because he really believes it. That's why he keeps doing it, Mr. Gray Sheep. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean Mr. Gray Sheeple. But let's continue in the video.
I've checked out his most recent channel out of a morbid curiosity on his situation, and it's exactly as I expected. And by that, I mean it's just completely boring, insipid, low-effort content made by someone who thinks he's a lot cooler and smarter than he actually is. There was one.
So, we see here on this video, Mr. Gray Sheeple claims that Brett Keane's content is low effort, and that Brett Keane thinks he's smarter than he actually is. Well, you may think that Brett Keane's content is low effort, but you apparently are not aware of people like Styx Hexenhammer 666. This dude has over 500,000 subs here on YouTube. He's got over 140,000 subs on both Rumble and BitChute. And he's got significant followings on a wide variety of social media sites. He's super popular within the news and politics community, not just on YouTube, but on the internet in general. And what does Styx do for his videos? He literally turns on a webcam and talks. He doesn't have videos on screen. He doesn't have social media posts on screen. He doesn't have articles on screen. He literally just talks off the cuff about the topics that he talks about. He puts in far less effort into his content than Brett Keane does. Brett Keane actually has an OBS setup where he's got banners on the screen, he's got articles on screen, videos on screen, he's got himself in a variety of different ways, like sometimes he has pictures of himself on screen, sometimes he has his current setup on screen, sometimes he's had himself on camera, where he actually shows his face, and sometimes he puts color filters on his webcam, so he's on camera, but like he's in black and white. Brett Keane puts way more effort into his content than someone like Styx Hexenhammer 666 does, and yet I don't see you, Mr. Gray Sheeple, criticizing Styx Hexenhammer 666 for putting no effort into his content. And as for Brett Keane, trying to sound smarter or thinking he's smarter than he actually is, I don't think Brett's that arrogant. I think he, like myself, knows his limitations. He knows there's people out there that are smarter than him on a wide variety of things. But Brett Keane, like me, is a man who he sees things going on in the world and he wants to share it on the internet. And so he does it in the best way that he can on sites like YouTube and other sites like Rumble and BitChute and etc. I don't think Brett Keane has as high of opinion of himself as you're making him out to be, Mr. Sheeple. But let's continue.
One thing that was new that surprised me, though. It all started when I noticed that in his recent videos, a lot of them had the exact same thumbnail of him on them. Although that's nothing too unique, really, but when I started watching his videos, I saw him sitting there completely still, barely moving at all, for videos that can go up to an hour in length. And his mouth was completely covered by his microphone the entire time. It was strange, but I just assumed he was covering his mouth so he wouldn't see that he literally has no teeth due to his off-brand root beer addiction.
I noticed this too a few months back, Mr. Sheeple, and I like it. It's different, because in the past he's either been on camera himself, or he's had just a still image of himself, or an avatar of his video game character, or some other avatar to represent himself that is a still image in videos. I actually like how he does this setup that he's been doing for months now. And I think Brett Keane does too, because he keeps doing it. It looks better than just a plain old still image. That's for sure. But let's continue, because if we keep watching, Mr. Gray Sheeple is going to expose how Brett Keane is doing this.
But then I noticed that the microphone in front of him and the chair behind him are obviously PNGs. You can see his chair fuck up a little bit with the green screen, because you can see it has square edges around the ends of the chair. And then, after staring at him long enough, I realized that he was repeating the same subtle movements over and over again. Like this thing where he moves his lip a bit and tilts his head to the top left. Eventually, it hit me like he hits his wife. Brett was trying to trick us into thinking he was sitting in a chair and talking in real time for his videos, when he wasn't.
Whoa! Oh my goodness! The lies have been exposed. Brett Keane is trying to trick us into thinking that he's sitting almost perfectly still in a chair with a microphone in front of his mouth. Oh, he's trying to trick us! Oh! Oh. I haven't laughed so good in so long. Oh. So, according to Mr. Gray Sheeple here, Brett Keane's big lie that he's trying to foist on everybody is that he's giving off the illusion that he's really sitting there in a chair in front of a microphone talking about this stuff. Well then, Mr. Gray Sheeple, by your own logic, then Professor Stick, the popular atheist YouTuber, is trying to push a lie on everyone by convincing them that he really is a stick figure man responding to all these creationists and Christians and flat earthers on the internet. By your logic, then, Viced Rhino is lying to everybody by portraying himself as a rhino cartoon character. Apologia must be lying to everyone, too, because on his main channel, he presents himself as a cartoon character responding to Christians and creationists. Same thing with Sir Sick. He must be lying to everyone, too, because he portrays himself as a medieval knight. What I don't get is that if all these atheist YouTubers are portraying themselves as something that they're actually not on camera, I fail to see how it's suddenly a huge problem when Brett Keane decides to portray himself as sitting in a chair in front of a microphone on his recent videos. I fail to see where the problem is. If it's okay for atheist YouTubers to portray themselves as something that they're not, or doing something that they're not actually doing while on video, then I don't see where the problem is with Brett Keane doing the same thing with his own image. I fail to see the problem.
He's just playing a looped video of him sitting there. Look closely. To my count, it takes about 15 seconds for him to subtly teleport in place because the loop is starting over, and it takes about 22 seconds for him to repeat the movement where he tilts his head to the left.
I hosted a show with TTOR, and we discussed the Bible as well as modern day issues going on with the world.
Yeah, I made it into this guy's video. Woo! Just I had to point that out there.
And we've got tons of shows up there, and also you can watch and listen to them.
It's in the video OBS Video Editing Microphone Tutorial by Brett Keane, with the first letter of each word capitalized, of course. Look at the bottom left of the screen here at his OBS sources. Mic pick, green screen me, with each word capitalized, and share.
Whoa! You've done such a great job, Mr. Gray Sheeple, showing exactly how Brett Keane creates the image of him sitting in a chair in front of a microphone that he's had on his videos these last several months. Golf clap to you, bro. We know how Brett does it now. Maybe I should start doing that too.
There's more. Later, he must have realized he fucked up because he begins to cover the OBS sources, but then at one point in this video, Brett has to turn the green screen loop of him off because he's going to be using his mouse to show off something in OBS. And if he kept it on, it would be even more obvious he wasn't actually sitting at his computer because we would see his arm moving. My friend Kamalio Potato had...
Ooh, man, you're really making Brett sound like an awful guy.
phenomenal instincts here in this moment, because he noticed that when Brett started moving his mouse, he just so happened to accidentally cover the screen with his intro image. And if you look to the bottom left very closely when his supposed webcam turns off while I slow it down, you can see mic pick, green screen, and chair disappear.
Whoops. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go to full screen. Full screen.
So, as you guys can see from me switching from the later point in the video to an earlier one, the reason why Brett Keane's mic pick, green screen me, and chair sources disappeared is because Brett just changed scenes. He changed from center me cam to full screen not me. So Mr. Gray Sheeple is trying to convince you that when Brett Keane accidentally had that full screen thing on, that he was actually deleting those sources, the mic pick, the chair, and the green screen me elements from the scene he was on OBS. When in reality, Brett was actually switching to a completely different scene that did not have those elements in it. Wow! What a shocker-rooney! It's almost like Brett Keane wanted to go into a full screen mode where his avatar was not on screen so that he could show you how to do something on OBS. Wow! What a shocker!
Psh. Conveniently, the OBS scene he's on when his supposed webcam is off doesn't have the aforementioned sources. Later in the video, when he brings back the looped green screen footage, you can see them return if we slow it down again.
Whoa! Amazing! You've exposed Brett Keane for switching OBS scenes. It's almost like when there's certain things he wants to show you on OBS, he doesn't want to be on screen, so he goes into a full screen mode where he's not on camera. But then when he wants to go to a scene where he's on camera so that he can talk while his avatar's on screen, he switches to that OBS scene. Wow! Amazing! You're really exposing the boogeyman of the internet now, Mr. Gray Sheeple!
This is so embarrassing, there's no one else I can see doing it other than Brett Keane. He was very clearly trying to hide the fact that this is a green screen loop, but how did he not notice that the sources were right there in the beginning of the video? Why didn't he...
Well, I think there's a pretty easy answer to that. He's not trying to lie to people like you claim he is. Just saying.
Just cut out the parts in the video that had the sources? He could have just showed something else when editing the video. Well, the simplest answer is the correct one here. He's stupid and lazy. Or
actually, the simplest answer is that he wasn't trying to lie to people in the first place, like you keep claiming that he did. That's the simplest answer. But no, that would never occur to your thick numbskull head, because you're an atheist, and atheists look at former atheists like Brett Keane and say, I must destroy his character. So instead of ever refuting any of his actual arguments, we must use ad hominem attacks. We must call him stupid. We must call him lazy. We must criticize the way he sets up his recording setup on OBS. We must criticize his avatars. We must attack his physical appearance when he does show his face on a webcam. We must destroy him by any pathetic, trivial means necessary, because we can't stand a former atheist like him who was really popular back in the day, now being a Christian, explaining to people why atheism is false. No, we can't have that. Let's continue with the video, though.
Or to put it another way, it's because he's Brett Keane. But for what reason would he do all of this anyway? Why lie about the way you recorded your video? Well, back in the day, he would always make videos laying down in bed, which people made fun of him for, and this is how he was dubbed the Manatee, or as he likes to think, the King of the Manatee. And if you look at his past, like the fact that he tried to rebrand himself as the Stallion in Wolfman BK, it's very clear that he feels insecure about his self-image. So it's only natural he would try to artificially create this image of a professional, intellectual Brett Keane that sits in a chair and talks about whatever philosophical topic enters his mind. But even that basic idea of a person is too much for Brett. As always, he tries to hide the real Brett Keane, because the truth is, he's too lazy to even get out of bed.
Now, either Mr. Gray Sheeple doesn't know this, or he does and he's just omitting it deliberately from you guys. But the reason why Brett Keane used to be on camera laying in bed in his videos is because he actually has back issues, pretty bad back issues, which he recently revealed was the result of him getting hit by a car while saving a child from being run over. Which I can understand completely, because my father has had back issues for years now himself, because he got in a car accident where basically he was parked on an intersection on a highway and someone who wasn't paying attention came running up and rear-ended him, and it was a pretty severe wreck. And it jacked his back out, and he's been whacked with his back ever since. And he's had to deal with a lot of therapy in the years since dealing with that. That's why Brett Keane was laying on his bed in all those past videos, is because he has bad back issues. And because he wasn't afraid to show himself on camera, that's why you got what you got. But as for your claim that Brett Keane is too lazy to get out of bed, well, that actually isn't true, it turns out. If you go to Brett Keane's Odyssey channel, The Brett Keane Show, you see that in February of this year, he put out a video called Nihilistic Christianity is Grossly Offensive. And you can see Brett Keane out of bed! Whoa! He's also sitting in a different room, at a desk, with an actual microphone in front of him. Whoa, shocker-rooney! And then, if you go to his other video from February 16th, 2023 on his Odyssey channel, Dangers of Artificial Intelligence for Christian and Atheist YouTubers, you see Brett Keane, once again, out of bed, in a different room of his house, sitting at a desk, with a microphone in front of his face, and he's actually on webcam. Whoa! I guess Brett Keane isn't too lazy to get out of bed after all. Now, as somebody who has been following Brett Keane for literally years, and I've collaborated with him many, many times and made videos about him many, many times, I have seen Brett Keane's presentation, the way he presents his videos, change a lot over the years. An awful lot. Sometimes he's on camera with normal color filtering. Sometimes he's on camera and he filters the colors so it looks like he's black and white or some other color. Sometimes he has a still image of himself on camera when he's talking about stuff. Sometimes he has an avatar of his video game character, or sometimes he has another avatar that represents him. And then, more recently, the thing you've been criticizing is him being on camera in this way. PNG of a chair behind him, 15-second looping video of himself in front of the chair, then a PNG of a microphone in front of the mouth of that 15-second looping video. Brett Keane has changed his presentation of himself on his YouTube channel almost as often as the University of Oregon Ducks football team has changed uniforms over the last 20 years. And if you don't understand what that means, let me explain this to you this way, because I've been an Oregon Ducks football fan for a long time. The Oregon Ducks have had so many different uniforms and so many different color combinations and design combinations on their uniforms over the last 20 years that for many, many years there was a period of time where they would never wear the same uniform combination twice. Brett Keane does the same thing, he just doesn't change it as often as the Oregon Ducks change their uniforms, and he's changing the way he presents himself on OBS when he's recording and streaming videos instead of, football uniforms. So when the Oregon Duck football team changes their uniform combinations so much and so often that they almost never wear the same uniform combination twice in a season, that's cool. That's innovative. That's awesome. Yeah. But when Brett Keane every now and then changes the way he presents himself on OBS when he's recording videos, ooh, that's bad. Brett Keane's trying to foist a lie upon us. Oh no! As I said at the beginning of this video by Gray Sheeple, the most pathetic lie I've ever seen, Brett Keane, is the most pathetic attempt at exposing Brett Keane that I think I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen and responded to a few of them over the years. But this pathetic hit piece by Gray Sheeple would explain why he hasn't uploaded a video on his channel in 5 months. It would explain a lot. I mean, maybe he feels so much shame about what a horrible hit piece he put out that he decided to go into hiding. Then again, it's also possible that there are other explanations for why he hasn't put out a video in 5 months, like family issues, death in the family, maybe he's no longer an unbeliever and he started a new channel. I mean, the possibilities really are endless as to why he hasn't uploaded anything since he put out this Brett Keane hit piece 5 months ago. But whatever his explanation is, I think we can all agree on, those of us who are honest and knowledgeable, is that this video by Mr. Gray Sheeple here is the most pathetic hit piece on Brett Keane that's ever been put out on the internet.